Welcome to Tony Byrne's View with news you can use. Tony has over 32 years of experience as a chartered financial planner and wealth manager. Tony's passion is to help you retire early and live the life of your dreams with no financial worries. Now to today's episode.
Have you heard of Deffi? If not, listen on. Forgive the corny headline, I couldn't resist it. My 84-year-old mother's become quite deaf over the last 12 months. I, for one, will not be calling her Deffi though. So, what is Deffi? Deffi is an acronym for Decentralized Finance, which is a very modern method of financial management, which has been built up through cryptocurrency, and it's normally on something known as the blockchain, which is a digital ledger where these DEFI contracts are usually handled. Now, what is decentralized finance? Well, traditional finance is centralized. In other words, there's normally an institution or a government that controls finance. But this has all been building up really since around 2007 with the emergence of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, where more and more middlemen are being cut out and institutions are being avoided as well. It seems to create some kind of new freedom now in finance. But as with anything that's new, it's a bit of a cowboy territory out there at the moment because it's not as highly regulated as centralized finance. Nonetheless, it does seem to be the way things are emerging and going to develop into the future. So for those who are uninitiated about this, what is cryptocurrency? Well, it's a word that describes not only digital currency, in other words, it's not notes and coins, it's a way of using a digital currency to trade or to buy and sell things, usually on the blockchain. And why is it called crypto? Well, of course, cryptography or encryption is the use of secret codes between the buyer and the seller, and it's highly secure. So there is a lot of mileage in this new form of finance that's evolving. Now, in early 2019, the amount of crypto collateral in the DEFI economy stood at around $275 million. Well, since then it's risen to $4 billion by 25th of July 2020. Well, that's a staggering increase. I think you'll agree, and just goes to show the great potential of DEFI. Now, most DEFI platforms take the form of decentralized apps, which are known as dApps, yet another acronym. So what does DEFI do? It really gives people more control of their money and more interesting ways to use it. What it enables people to do is to get access to sophisticated forms of finance, which would only in the past have been available to wealthy people. It enables them to access this type of finance with lower minimum investments and easy ways to access usually via an app on a smartphone. So it's quite liberating. Already there are a number of very interesting ways of using DEFI. Let me just give you one or two examples. For example, you can borrow and lend cryptocurrencies to earn interest using platforms such as Compound or Aave, A-A-V-E. There's even a no-loss lottery on Pool Together where everyone gets their money back and one lucky participant wins all the interest that has accrued in a shared pot. It does sound a bit like the National Lottery or National Savings, or actually National Savings certificates, National Saving Premium bonds rather, are more like this, where you don't actually lose your original capital. But of course that one's got the backing of the government guarantee, unlike this Pool Together. Nonetheless, these are just a couple of very interesting examples of how you can use it. In the future, you'll probably be able to buy property this way without involving a bank or a solicitor. That sounds quite amazing. Any of you listening who've bought a property will understand the frustration at the long delays and the huge cost involved once you get various organisations involved in the process, especially solicitors and banks. Everything just seems to grind along ever so slowly. There just seems to be too many vested interests, in my opinion. So the whole process of buying a house in the future will be cheaper, a lot quicker. A big advantage of DEFI finance in the future is going to be cutting out the middleman. So it's going to really be very transformative and disruptive, which is the clever or the popular phrase to use these days. In spite of all these interesting uses of DEFI, what you've got to realise is it is higher risk because it currently lacks the rules and regulations of centralised finance. And there have been several high-profile attacks and hacks in 2019 and 2020, resulting in some heavy losses. So I have to emphasise it's important to educate yourself about DEFI. If you do decide to enter the market, I would just dip your toe in the water and only limit any investment to a relatively small sum, certainly at least until you understand it better and you have confidence in the app you're using, to not yourself become susceptible to one of these hacks where you could lose quite a lot of money. So I think it's good to know about this, but I think it will become very mainstream in the future once it gets a lot more secure. And certainly using cryptocurrency in many ways is more secure than notes and coins, because you have to make the transaction using cryptography, so there's codes, so it is quite a secure way of transferring funds from one person to another. But you've got to be confident that that organisation you're using it isn't going to be hacked and your money's safe. So I think the way to go from here is to certainly find out more about it, educate yourself more about it. I think it will become very mainstream in the future. Just be aware of it and just tread carefully and don't risk too much money, because otherwise you'll be very sorry. You know it makes sense.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. For more information, head to www.wealthandtax.co.uk.